OWCP podcast with Chris and
A
Gini.
very special Park City, Utah edition.
Yeah, see?
Gini and I came up here to try to get some more work done, free from distractions of dogs wanting to go outside, play ball, kids wanting stuff every time they're home from work, the UPS man, constantly an Amazon guy wanting to constantly drop stuff off at our house.
And getting Ellie riled up.
And I didn't say USPS because we had one of those big group box things, so they never come to the house.
Yeah.
But just free from distraction, and it's been really great. Also, we are 2 hours behind on Mountain Time, so
it's now 8:30 there.
I've woken up between 3:30 and 5:30 every morning since we've been here, which makes it great because I'm able to get more work done than most people can in a whole day before the sun even comes up. But we're recording our podcast from Park City, Utah, and tonight's topic is, for me, timely because we had an issue yesterday that came up, and I thought, this is something we should just discuss.
Yeah, so we're going to go over, you guys think that some of these claims examiners, nurse case managers are always on you
or against you,
and they are trying to do their job as what they're told to do.
Now, that's not us giving them a pass when they do bad things.
Right. But they're not all bad, and there's reason that they do what they do. And I know number one is a lot of them don't realize that in all of our franchises, it's basically owned by chiropractors. So they see that it says chiropractors.
But what they don't understand is who else works there.
Medical doctors, physical therapists,
nurse practitioners, PAs.
Practitioners, yes.
So, the Federal Injury Center's offices are fully staffed with a multidisciplinary team. That's what we call it in healthcare, multidisciplinary. Because, medical doctor, nurse practitioner, PA, chiropractor, physical therapy assistant, OT in some cases, OTAs, massage therapist. Yeah, and who doesn't like a good massage therapist? But we do have this full, group of healthcare providers, but sometimes the claims examiners and nurse case managers just don't understand. But
so we know that when you guys call your claims examiners, and we tell you a lot of the times to contact the claims examiners, because unfortunately, even with our case managers, they can't get a hold of them either. And we also tell you, because we've been told by a senior claims examiner, don't call multiple times. Leave the message or email, and that's it. Because, imagine there are hundreds of thousands of you guys with maybe 100 claims examiners. So imagine how many hundreds of thousands of you are leaving voicemail after voicemail, and they're just getting irritated.
So those numbers are pretty good to scale, but it's probably more like thousands of claims examiners to hundreds of thousands of you. It's overwhelming. Imagine.
It is.
Imagine you had to deal with thousands of people all by yourself. Okay, lots of you do that, and you got to keep the case file of thousands of people, and it's just you. That's tough. And anyways, again, we're not giving them a free pass, but it's just some perspective, because we have met some claims examiners that are just freaking awesome and that really care about your well-being and frankly, really don't care too much for your supervisors. And so that's pretty cool. I think even the claims examiners who are having a bad day probably roll their eyes at supervisors' comments on the CA1, for example, or their HR's letters saying, what's going on here? You need to do something about this. My doctor, I don't understand why they're having so much success.
But we do have where some HR people have gotten in trouble because they stuck their nose where it shouldn't be.
Right.
So
because their job, as I always say, is to fill out the paperwork and get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
And I'll say that until the rules change, but the rules probably won't. But today specifically, let's talk about claims examiners and nurse case managers and their role in getting you back to work. And that should be your primary goal anyways. And I think it is. Everyone I talk to says so. Is I want to get back to work as soon as possible because I got to get paid. And what do I always say the surest way to get paid is?
Clock in.
To clock in. The only way to do that is to go to work. So that's what you want. That's what we want.
Yes.
That's what our doctors want. And just incidentally, we have 90. I always get the numbers wrong, but somewhere in the range of 93 to 97% return to work. That's not full duty necessarily, but
right.
Who was I talking to yesterday? I was talking to one of the offices. No, today I was talking to Tim up in Maryland, Virginia, DC. And in the conversation, I said, Tim, what's your return to work rate? And he said like 97, 98%. It's like, holy cow, Tim, that's amazing. And it's amazing. That's 97, 98% of people that can just go back and clock in.
And even at the Atlanta office, what did Tiffany tell you yesterday?
Oh yeah, very similar numbers. That's right. I asked Tiffany too. So very similar numbers, mid to high 90s in percentage of return to work, which is awesome. Of note though, when I was speaking, I forget which one I was talking to. I think it was Tiffany yesterday.
Yeah.
From Atlanta, but she said that like 30% of her cases that are not back to work are because management won't make a valid limited duty offer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem, but I'm not getting into management too much today. But the main point is we all want the same thing that you want for yourself, is to get you back to work full duty, at least limited duty, so you can go clock in and stop having to jump through hoops to get paid.
And that topic, the limited and light duty, is a whole other topic, not on this topic for today, because that gets a little sticky.
Shout out to our video editing guy, Robert. If you're in Miami, and where else was Robert with us?
Orlando, San Francisco, yeah.
You've seen him carrying a camera around, filming us and doing things for us. So hello, Robert. Have you ever heard of Mutt Money? That's just incidentally, where did that come from? Every time I ask someone if they've ever heard of Schedule Award, like 5 people raise their hand. And then I say, okay, who's ever heard about money? And everyone raises both. So
just to let you guys know, we're streaming live here on Breaking OWCP. This will eventually make it onto the podcast page. And we are also live on YouTube. So if you have any friends that can't get on Facebook, there's always YouTube. So YouTube is Wednesday night OWCP chats with Chris and Gini. And if you're on Facebook watching this, you're at Breaking OWCP. So tell your friends. Tell your friends. And then the podcast is Breaking OWCP Podcast with Chris and Gini. All right, let's talk about nurse case managers right now. So nurse case managers, it's important that you understand what their purpose is. Many of you think that their purpose is just to frustrate you and get in the way. And I get questions all the time. Do I have to let the nurse case manager come in the room with me with the doctor? Right. And the answer is no, but you have to allow the nurse case manager to communicate with the doctor. That's that person's job. Their role, their whole purpose is to facilitate you getting back to your pre-injury status. So you're back to work full duty, on the clock, getting paid without the hassles of CA7s and doing LWOP and having to document. So that's their whole purpose. And when they're talking to the doctors, they're generally saying, hey, doc, what's the plan? What are you doing? What's the progress? What's the prognosis? Like, how soon are they going to be back? And so that's a good purpose. We all want that. And we find that most nurse case managers are great, and they just kind of stay in their lane and they help. In fact, Tiffany, again, from Atlanta yesterday, was saying that she's got nurse case managers that they love to talk to, that she's along with well. The nurse case managers are super helpful. And I hear that in a lot of places around the country, where the nurse case managers will come in and be really a good participating team member within our offices. And so you should really hope that you get one like that. Unfortunately, though, there's a flip side, is that there are some nurse case managers that do what I call going rogue. They're not that nice. They're not nice. And they create sort of a combative relationship with you and with the doctor. And that's not helpful to you. Obviously, it doesn't help anybody for any 2 members of the team to be butting heads. So we try not to have that happen. We try to have a really great open line of communication with nurse case managers, because we know they can be so strong in helping you with your main goals. However, sometimes they're not so good. Right. Like, I can't tell you, I think the term countless is way overused, but there have been countless instances where a nurse case manager went into one of our chiropractic offices and said, you can't be here. This is a chiropractor. And they're, making them leave. Well, what's the number 1 rule on your right to choose a doctor? It's that it's your right to choose a doctor. It's your right to choose. It doesn't say you can choose a doctor as long as they're not in a chiropractic office. And remember, they don't know all the rules. They're doing what they're told to do. And that's true. It doesn't come up where they say, oh, you can't go to a chiro. They just look at that. They don't understand that there's medical inside our chiropractic offices. They don't realize there's an MD. They don't realize there's a nurse practitioner or a PA. So you have to let them know that if they start giving you a hard time.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And you know, the doctor's office's job is to explain that. And but sometimes a nurse case manager is going to get you on the phone and say, "What are you doing there?"
Yeah.
Let them know it's a chiropractor's office. They own it. They're allowed to own it.
Yeah.
But in that office are physical therapists and medical doctor and nurse practitioner. It's amazing. And hopefully you do feel that it's amazing. But the main key for you is that you've got to know that they can't just rip you out of the office. Nobody wants that. They're not allowed to do it.
But they do. They do it.
They do. But here's the craziest part is that chiropractors are actually recognized clinicians inside of OWCP. The specific rule says that they are physicians in so much as they're diagnosing and treating chiropractic conditions, right? But letter D of that law says they can also do services in the nature of physical therapy that are prescribed and supervised by a medical doctor. Well, in our offices, all physical therapy is prescribed and supervised by a medical doctor, all of it. And so chiropractors have a place in this system. And so if a nurse case manager says you can't be here, it's a chiropractic office. Well, yeah, you can. There's so many reasons that I just outlined that that person's wrong. But this is not a nurse case manager bashing session, but I think it's important that you know that you're going to come across something like that, and it's helpful, and that's, I think, why you're here, that you are armed with, better knowledge than that nurse case manager.
If that does happen, and I mean, like what Chris said earlier, we've seen it happen. We've heard it happen where patient is in treatment and the nurse case manager is like, you have to come with me now. When that happens, get the doctor involved, get your case manager involved, and let them explain what this is all about before they just haul you out. You still have a right to choose where you want to go, and you need to let them know. Again, not all nurse case managers know all the little rules within OWCP.
That's right. And I've read all the little rules in OWCP, and I have never read any place that allows a nurse case manager to take a patient from their doctor.
Right.
A nurse case manager is not a doctor. They're often not nurses, and often they are, but just understand they're just following some rules. But this one particular rule I've never seen. And if I've never seen it, that's probably a clue that it doesn't exist. So just know that. But with all that said, try your best to cooperate with the nurse case managers, because their primary role is to get you back clocked in at work.
Correct.
And that's really important. It's what we want, it's what they want. And once they figure out that we're all on the same page doing that, it makes for a really smooth relationship with all of us on the team, including you.
So let's talk about claims examiners. And we know every single one of you love to blame your case manager, claims examiner, when your case is approved.
Yeah.
Everybody blames the claims examiner 100% of the time. Yeah. You hate them. You don't want to talk to them. They don't return phone calls. They don't do this. They don't do that. So let's figure this out now.
So the title of this one is Claims Examiners, Nurse Case Managers, and Return to Work. Okay. And the best way for you to get back to work is for your claim to get accepted, because then you get all the help you need without any of that. Well, without hassles. There's always going to be hassles in OWCP. But when your claim's accepted, it's easier for you to get the treatment you need so you can get back. It's also easier to get a limited duty assignment since they don't have to give you one without an accepted claim.
Right.
Right. And so a limited duty assignment also gets you back on the clock. But the claims examiners we've spoken to, one of them being a senior claim examiner who also happened to be an AFGE union president, which was really interesting to us when we were doing a training of DOL employees.
Well, and we are actually going at the end of the month, we are going back. Well, we're going to be in Kentucky. We're going to be training a handful of claims examiners and DOL employees.
Yeah. And just by the way, when we're there, we're going to have to do a roundtable with claim examiners.
Yes, we will.
Oh, look forward to that.
We're trying to make that happen.
If I have 3 or more claims examiners, I'm going to get them alive. And we're going to talk to them because I think they're misunderstood.
Yes.
The guy we were talking about yesterday is the reason they're misunderstood. And I'll get into that a little bit, but just understand, like, usually the claims examiners are looking at things with an eye for how to help you, for how to say yes to you. And they're not looking for a reason to deny you. They're federal employees too. Believe me,
Correct.
If they get hurt, and they do get hurt, they have to go through the same system you do. And believe me, they are not their own claims examiner.
Correct.
And so keep that in mind. They're federal employees just like you, and they ultimately don't want to treat you worse than they would be treated, or the same if it's bad. So hopefully that made sense. The problem is the reason claims get denied is your doctors write really terrible narrative reports. It's not the claim examiner, it's a doctor. And the doctors write terrible narrative reports because they're used to having to do, what's the word? They're used to not having to do the top best work in order to make money. You know, when they work on a patient with Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna, they don't have to prove the case. They just have to say, like in their SOAP note, which is a doctor's note, that you're sick. And that's enough. They get paid. But in OWCP, if the doctor doesn't use incredible detail, nothing happens. Everything just gets stuck. And that's the problem. And so a claim examiner, the other thing they're really good at is when they send a denial, they'll tell you exactly what the doctor did wrong.
Exactly.
They're going to say specifically your claim is denied because that's a criticism. I always say that's a clue. Well, that's a clue. What they're saying is, hey, if you read this, by the way, it's in English, find that paragraph that says specifically your claim is denied because, and fix it. Do the opposite of whatever the problem was. And so they're not just denying you, they're denying you saying, here's how to fix it. And I think that's really fantastic. It's the only payer, and that's from the medical world. Payer is like Blue Cross, Aetna, Medicare, and OWCP. But they're the only, air quote, insurance company that I've ever seen that denies you and then says, here's why we did it.
Right.
So you can fix it. And that's actually that's like a eureka moment to me. I've never actually thought of that before.
Yeah, a lot of you, when you're messaging me or calling and saying, you know, my claim got denied, I'll ask you, you know, whether it be by text or messenger, what does the claim say? Why did it get denied? And
Right.
then I said, did you go back to your doctor, whoever the doctor was, and show them what they're saying is denied? It's that easy.
Yeah. And then if the doctor is willing to cooperate,
right,
which all of ours are, none of the other ones usually are, but if they're willing to cooperate, all they have to do is just write a new report that addresses that denial reason. They don't have to write the whole report over again. They just have to write almost what I would call an addendum and say, here, this is what you said was denied for. Boom, we fixed it.
Yeah.
And then the claims examiner is going to say, okay, we fixed it. Your claim's approved. But I think for the most part, the claims examiners are not out to get you. They're out to help you. And when everyone starts understanding, the claims examiner, the nurse case manager, yourself, the doctor, that everyone's primary role is to get you back to work, it makes it so much easier to understand what to do next. Approve this claim. As soon as it's ready to be approved, this person can go back to work. Nurse case manager, don't rip this patient out of the doctor's office. This is the only doctor that understands the rules. You're actually hindering this person getting back to work if you take them someplace that doesn't understand what's going on. It's always better to be an expert at this. So that's what I would say about them. But the reason this came up is this claims examiner from yesterday. I don't know a lot of information on it, but I know this. This particular claims examiner has essentially said, I will not approve any more treatment for this person who has a diagnosed ligament tear.
right.
So as a guy with current ligament tears, as a guy who's had 3 knee surgeries due to ligament tears.
And screws
in both knees due to ligament tears, I can tell you that not having treatment wasn't an option. I had to get a lot of treatment. And because will they heal on their own? Yeah, but man,
it takes time.
That's a problem.
Right.
But there's so many things that will accelerate healing, and therapy does that. And I needed surgery. But say you're not going to approve anything else. What if this person needs surgery? You want to approve that either? Well, that doesn't make sense. It's a ligament tear. How is this thing going to heal properly if it needs surgery and you want to prove it? So I think that's unethical. And I'm being very nice to say that just blanket, I won't approve anything else. And the claims examiner is being quite combative as well. But fortunately, we don't see a lot of that from claims examiners. We really don't. I think they generally just kind of stay behind the scenes, read reports, and do their job.
Yeah, but again, no matter what, don't get frustrated with the claims examiner denying, because they're looking for certain language, certain diagnosis codes, and they're following what they're supposed to do. So every time you guys say, oh, well, my claims examiner denied, it's not them denying it because of something they are doing. They really don't do anything but approve or deny. It's what they're looking for, what the doctor has to put into it.
It's like a checklist. They're just checking boxes. That's the way I look at it.
Because a lot of you will tell me, well, my doctor says he works with federal employees and he knows how to write it. And I told Chris this the other day. I asked her to send me her narrative. It was half a page long.
That ain't getting it
That's
done.
not going to get your claim accepted. Our doctors write anywhere from 5 to, some of these doctors have 12 pages, remember?
And then we tell them to don't write
Yeah,
that
don't
many.
write that much.
That's too
but
much.
it has to be at least a couple pages, because half a paragraph isn't going to tell what you did from the morning you got up all the way when your injury happened with
Yeah.
proper diagnosis codes. So please try not to sit there constantly and bash the claims examiners. It is not their fault.
And keep in mind, they have rules too, just
Yeah.
like you have rules at your job. Their role is that the doctor makes the decision. They're just deciding whether or not the doctor gave them the right information.
Yeah.
So your doctor's got to do a great job. And when the doctor does a great job, then return to work happens a lot faster.
And those of you that go to walk-in clinics, they are not going to approve it if it's just a
Nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, the PA.
You got to have an
They
MD
are
signature.
not going to accept it. That's the rules. That's what DOL expects, and that's what must happen. If you don't get a doctor's signature, you just unfortunately screwed yourself.
Oh, and that reminds me. So this claims examiner from yesterday, again, I'm not bashing claims examiners, just this one, said, in any ways, you're at a chiropractic office.
Right.
Okay. And so they had to explain, no, we have 2 medical doctors and a nurse practitioner and a physical therapist and a physical therapy assistant and a massage therapist. Like 2 medical doctors. What else do you want from us?
You have to understand the chiropractors can own the building. There's some of these chiropractors in our offices have no dealing with your claim.
No, none whatsoever. Like we were just speaking with Dr. Wood today. He's here near Salt Lake City. And Dr. Wood's not involved in the case. The medical doctor, nurse practitioner, and physical therapist are.
And that's who
he just owns the practice.
Should be into it. That's it.
That's how it's supposed to be. So just be prepared to have that conversation if you have to. Also this, and I'm going to end with this, and I hope I have to do it. There is a way to remove these people from your claim if they're not doing the right job.
Right.
If a nurse case manager is obviously working against you and not in your best interest, then you can write a letter to the claims examiner requesting to get a new nurse case manager. And that request will be honored. And just the same with a claims examiner. You can write a letter to the claims examiner supervisor explaining what's going on and request a new claims examiner. But I'll tell you, that one won't always be honored. So that one could be dicey, because now you end up keeping your current claims examiner, and now they're more mad at you because you try to get them fired from the case. Not that they don't have 10,000 more cases to work on or whatever their number is, but you're not without options. It's like I say every other time, like if you're at a red light, what are you going to do? You're going to run it. And so with nurse case managers, you run it by writing a letter to get them removed.
Right.
Claims examiners, you write a letter to their supervisor, and then just e-comp these letters.
Oh, but remember, that person did ask our case manager, why are you asking for the supervisor's
right? And
information?
She told the truth.
Yeah.
Because you're working against the patient.
Yeah.
And it's like, she was actually really good, not taking it personal at all. She realized right away, this isn't about me. This is about the patient who's going to be hurt by you saying blanket, you will not approve anything else. That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I think that there are some medical ethics involved in a claims examiner blanketly saying, I will not approve any more medically necessary treatment that your medical doctor said you need.
Not cool.
On a claim that's already been accepted.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure that's a rule someplace. So claims examiners are not licensed medical providers. So how can they just say, I won't approve medical care that's medically necessary as indicated by a medical doctor? So
let's talk. If you guys have any questions, please put them out there about nurse case managers and claims examiners. All right, last topic, we're going to talk about returning to work.
Yeah, listen, return to work is really important. Here's what's going to happen if you don't. You're going to get a second opinion doctor, and that second opinion doctor is going to close your case, and then you're going to end up back at work and you're not ready. So what you want to do is, as soon as a doctor on your CA-17 says you're ready, even for limited duty, go. I can't tell you how many times somebody has called us up and said, I'm not getting paid for these 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months. And I don't understand why. They said, okay, we'll tell them to send us a CA-17, the medical reports and so forth. And the first place I look is the CA-17 that said could return to work. And then the person said, yeah, I'm not going back. Well, if the doctor says you can go back and you don't go back, how do you think you're going to get paid LWOP for being out? It's like you're on vacation. So don't do that to yourself. And in my book, The 25 Things You Can Do to Win in OWCP, it says follow doctor's orders. Because anytime you don't follow doctor's orders, that's going to hurt you, and it's going to end up in a second opinion visit that's going to kill your case. So you have to go back when the doctor says you can go back. However, you don't have to stay and get hurt. So let's say your doctor, who's imperfect, okay, they're human, writes restrictions on your CA-17 that turns out you can't do. And you feel like you're going to get hurt doing it because it hurts really bad as you try it. Well, you need to go immediately back to your doctor and say, hey, doc, here's what happened. They can modify the CA-17 as often as necessary. It's a medical document. And so as long as you're being truthful and they're truthful as well on the CA-17, you can do that. But you can't just skip out on work. If you do that, you will not get paid. You may be labeled AWOL. You could be fired, and your claim will be closed.
And then there's nothing we could do.
No, there's nobody can do about it if you just decide not to go back. So I'm saying if you decide you don't think you can go back, let a doctor make that decision. Don't just make it on your own, because your supervisor won't care. They're going to go, nope, the CA-17 said you could work and you didn't. So get back as soon as possible. And that's what everybody wants. I could have even said second opinion doctors. Now, I don't think the second opinion doctor really wants you to get back to work or even cares about it, but their job is to help you get there. And unfortunately, the way that works is a claims examiner asks specific questions to that doctor, and the doctor just has to answer those questions. It's not very thorough. I don't like the system. I would change it if I could, and maybe I will, but not today.
But also remember, and this has happened, a lot of you are expecting our doctors to say you're off of work for 2 weeks and then you go on vacation.
No, that's what you have annual leave for.
Can't do that with the CA-17.
But here's the cool thing. I mean,
Just can't.
The CA-7 combination with CA-7A, the 7A is called a time analysis form. You can delineate between LWOP and annual leave and sick leave even. So you're allowed to go on vacation if you're hurt.
Right.
If you're sick, you can still take vacation. That time's available to you. Just know that CA-17s aren't for vacation.
Yeah, that's not it.
And it's unethical for a doctor to write you off just because of it. Long ago, prior, like years before I started this franchise, I trained a doctor who I thought at the time, and probably still is, the most prolific claims acceptant or claims approved doctor that I'd ever seen. And he called me one day. He was in training. He called and said, Chris, this patient of mine asked me if I could write her off work to go on vacation for 2 weeks. And I didn't let him finish, but I said, hell no. But he said, whoa. I was going to say my inclination is no. But what do I do?
Right.
So, okay. The CA-7A will delineate so they can use annual leave instead. So that's how you do it. Don't just take a vacation. That's not what CA-17s are for. The whole goal for all of us in this system is to get you back to work as soon as possible. And
you guys want that. You guys want to get to retirement. That's all we hear day in, day out.
And that doesn't make us the company doctor.
Right.
In fact, I would be, I think, the last person in the OWCP system that would ever be labeled as company doctor.
Right.
There's nobody that's been meaner to supervisors than I have ever. I'm usually fairly abusive to them. Not so much today. But don't think that when we're saying you got to go back to work, it's because we love management. I actually have very little regard for your supervisors. As a guy with a master's in business, okay, like I understand management differently than other people do. And I'm not sure what book your supervisors read lots of times, but I think they're in like the funny papers. Remember the old newspapers? I think they just read some of those cartoons or just watched them. But we're not the company doctor. We just understand that the easiest way for you to get paid is to clock in. And we're trying to get you to a place where you don't become homeless one day, where you don't lose things because you've lost so much money because you can't work. And we also know that you guys say, well, they don't have a job for me because of my restrictions. Well, if that's the case, they will send you home and you'll get paid. And that's okay at that point. You won't even have to turn in CA-7s. But don't just stay home. Give your supervisors an opportunity to find a valid limited duty offer for you and get back to work and clock in. And then be able to pay your bills. And life is better when that happens. Because we have a lot of new people, and in this last week, I think we must have got like 117 or 19 new people.
the 3 topics that they talked about are teens. They didn't even know what that was when I told them if they got it, because they asked, how do they pay for everything when they get injured? CA 17s, this handful of people didn't know what it was. And a lot of you get confused with CA 7s.
But we're not talking about those forms today, but those will be future topics.
That's going to be on tomorrow night's
Oh,
chats.
it is a future topic.
So that's why I'm bringing it up.
Tomorrow night in the future.
Tomorrow night, on Wednesday night, OWCP chats, we're going to cover CA 16, 17, and CA 7s. When you're supposed to get them, request them, what happens when you don't get them. So
there you go.
If there's anybody that has any more questions on nurse case managers, claims examiners, or return to work, drop it in the comments now. Now's your time.
So don't forget to like, follow, and share whatever page you're on. Specifically share, tell your friends, because we're here helping you navigate this very complicated system, very frustrating system. And then go to wherever you listen to podcasts and download the Breaking OWCP podcast. Download, subscribe, whatever. Okay. Yeah. And we really appreciate you doing that. It helps you be able to listen to what we're teaching you driving around for work.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really valuable, because like we're on Mountain Time now, but usually we're on Eastern Time, and folks on the West Coast can't listen to us live.
Right.
Because 8 o'clock live for us is 5 o'clock there, and you're just barely getting off of work. So download the Breaking OWCP podcast, and you can hear all of our Wednesday night chats are edited and brought to you as a podcast, as well as when we record live podcasts like this.
Yeah, so don't forget, tell your friends to check us out tomorrow night and Wednesday night OWCP chats, especially if you have some new friends, new coworkers. They have no clue what a CA16 is, and it is very important that they get that when filing a CA1.
All right, folks. Well,
see you
that's
tomorrow
it.
night.
From Park City, Utah, signing off.
Bye, everybody.